Once upon a time, in a quaint village in England, there lived a boy named Jack and his elderly widowed mother. They were poor, and Jack's mother worked tirelessly, spinning and weaving to earn just enough to feed them. Jack, although a strong and healthy lad, was terribly lazy. In the warm summer months, he would lay on the hillside daydreaming, and in the cold winter, he would sit idly by the small fire in their cottage. One day, his mother, weary from her endless labour, said, "Jack, you must go out and find work. Do not return until you have earned your supper." Jack, though surprised, shrugged and set off to find work. By chance, he was hired by a local farmer and worked hard the entire day. When evening came, the farmer paid Jack a shiny penny for his efforts. Pleased with his reward, Jack clutched the penny tightly as he made his way home. On the way, however, he had to cross a stream. As he hopped across the rocks, the penny slipped from his hand and fell into the water. When he got home, Jack told his mother about the mishap. "Oh, Jack," his mother exclaimed, "you should have put the penny in your pocket." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "Next time I will." The following day, Jack went out again and found work with a dairy farmer. At the end of the day, his payment was a jar of fresh, warm milk. Remembering his mother's advice, Jack tucked the jar into his pocket. By the time he reached home, the milk had spilled everywhere. "You foolish boy," his mother scolded. "You should have carried the jar on your head." "Next time I will," Jack said, undeterred. The next day, Jack was hired by another farmer and was paid with a large slice of cream cheese. Heeding his mother's previous advice, Jack carefully balanced the cheese on his head as he walked home. Unfortunately, the cheese melted in the sun and oozed down into his hair. "Jack!" his mother cried in despair. "You should have carried the cheese in your hands." "Next time, I will," Jack replied with a sigh as he washed the cheese out of his hair. On the fourth day, Jack worked for a baker who paid him with a tomcat. Remembering his mother's earlier advice, Jack held the cat tightly in his hands. But the cat, not appreciating this, scratched Jack until he had to let it go. "You should have tied the cat with a string and dragged it along," his mother advised. "Next time, I will," Jack said, rubbing his sore hands. On the fifth day, Jack worked for a butcher who rewarded him with a large shoulder of mutton. Determined to do it right, Jack tied the mutton with a string and dragged it all the way home. By the time he arrived, the meat was covered in dirt and completely ruined. "Oh, Jack," his mother wept. "You should have carried it on your shoulder." Jack nodded, though he was growing tired of his constant failures. "Next time, I will," he muttered. After his mother's constant advice led to repeated failures, Jack sat by the fire and reflected. He realized that while his mother's guidance was well-meaning, it didn't suit every situation. Determined to trust his instincts, Jack worked the next day for a florist. At the end of the day, the florist gave him 10 beautiful plants as payment. Faced with the task of carrying them home, Jack thought carefully. Instead of following old advice, he decided to carry the plants in a basket he borrowed, keeping them safe and upright. When he reached home without a mishap, his mother was astonished. "You finally learned to think for yourself," she said proudly. From then on, Jack became known for his thoughtful, wise decisions, no longer the foolish boy. Wisdom comes not from blindly following advice, but from thinking for yourself and adapting to the situation.